Another blood-red sunset and yet another moon face, and still another 100 miles to my next resting place. Driving down the road, eyes on the horizon. Within my car, I'm all alone, but feeling good and feeling strong, knowing that this path I'm on brings me to myself. I'm driving.
Hey now all, this is the Spirit Doctor, Kelle Sparta, and you are listening to Spirit Sherpa, the show that helps and encourages you on your journey to unlock your magic mojo. Joey C is taking a break, so I've invited a guest to join me as we explore more about energy, magic, and the spirit world. So buckle up, my friends. This is about to get fun. Today, I have invited my friend, Sue Angelo. We have known each other a very long time. Sue Angelo created the Shamanic Spirit Song Healing, blending her natural intuitive gifts with her training as a shamanic and energy practitioner. She is initiated as a medicine woman in the tradition of West African shamanism. She is certified by the Reese Thomas Institute of Energy Medicine and is a certified Reiki master. She brings all of this to her clients to help them step into their empowered selves in connection with spirit. And as I said, she is a certified badass. So we're going to tell some stories tonight, and then we're going to talk about what you do, and we're going to talk about your book, and we're going to like, really, when I said buckle up, guys, I really do mean buckle up, because Sue and I have not talked in a very long time, and we have got some great stories. So let me just say, this is going to be fun. All right. So one of my favorite stories is the day that you invited me over. We were doing a women's circle at your house, and you invited us to the house, and I was getting off the bus and I was walking up the hill to your house, which I'd done a bunch of times. And I walked up the hill and I walked up the hill and I walked up the hill, and I was like, wait, I think I passed it. And I walked down the hill and I walked down the hill and I went, wait a minute, I think I passed it. And I walked up the hill and I walked up the hill and I was like, fuck this. And I got on the phone and I called Sue and I said, what did you do to your house? And she's like, what do you mean? And I said, I can't find it. She's like, what do you mean you can't find it?
I said, I saw you walking by. I didn't understand why you didn't come in the door. I figured you were going to the store. I made it invisible.
Yes, you did. I was like, I can't find your fucking house, Sue. What did you do? You became 13 Grimald Place. Not okay. And I'm like, light a fucking candle and put it in the window, or else I'm not going to be able to get in. And so she did. And bang, I found it. It was right there. So when I say this woman's badass, I'm not kidding.
Well, from one badass to another, you know. You all have to understand, I met Kelle right when I really didn't know about any of the stuff, and I was in a group with two other women and Kelle, and they would be talking about all this stuff, and I'd be like, goddesses and all magical stuff, and I'd be like, what are they talking about, man? I don't know. I never heard about this stuff. I don't know what they're doing. But then if they said, oh, we're doing ritual, then I could bring an altar together. I could do different things and prepare, okay, we're going to do this, and that. And then Kelle goes, well, how do you know to do that, Sue? I said, well, isn't it just natural? Everybody should know how to do this. She's going, no, not everybody knows how to do ritual and put stuff in the right place and clean and clear and set everything up. And
the whole time she's pretending she doesn't know anything. And the whole time I'm going, but clearly you do.
I do. I know. And I just had to be reminded of it all. It just was something. So if you have things that you do very naturally, pay attention to those things. That's your gift.
Yeah. The first 2 years that I knew you, I was calling you sister and you were calling me sensei. And I was like, stop it. You're like, you're my teacher. I'm like, no, I'm your sister. You know this stuff. You just don't remember. And I'm just reminding you. It's okay.
And that's exactly what happened. I would do stuff. I would get into different situations and I'd be like, boom, boom, boom. This is how it's going to go. And I understand it. And then I'd be like, Kelle, what the hell was that? What did I just do? What does that mean? And she'd explain, she'd give me the background of it. And I'd be like, okay, all right, that makes sense. I think I got that.
Yeah. Always fun to work with the intuitive witches.
Yes.
So.
Well, because if we were setting, like we went away to a self-help group and we were all in the hot tub, and then everybody was like, oh, one person first said, oh, could you clear us? And so Kelle and I and two other ladies we were like, okay. And Kelle and I started clearing people, and we did one person. And then we started having this huge line of people standing there waiting to be cleared. We hadn't really worked together before. And all this magical stuff started happening for all these people. And
the guys just randomly just went and grabbed their drums and started drumming in support of it. And it was this line of women waiting to come into, and it was more than clearing. I mean, the first person asked for clearing, and then it just, when she stood in the center, it just became this healing cauldron. And we're standing there, the four of us, doing this work in this, just intuitively feeling into the space and doing all this energy work. And she finished and she stepped into the circle with us. And then the next person came in and we started working on her, and the guys are drumming, and somebody else assigned himself the job of bringing water to people for in between the sessions. And we must have done work on like 10 people that day?
Yeah, we
maybe
worked
12?
like 5 or 6 hours. I don't know how many hours, maybe 6 to 8 hours, but it was at least 10 people. And nobody knew. It was so spontaneous. It was so organic. It was so magical that's how it all came about. That's when I got one of my names, Sister Moon. So it was a very fun, magical time.
Well, and I remember going to Daughters of the Earth gathering, and you and I were talking about this when we talked about coming on this episode. We talked about how lucky we were to have come up through a time where we had access to all of these wonderful festivals and rituals. And, in the Northeast, there's just so much stuff, right? And Elisa Starkweather used to run an event called Daughters of the Earth, and she also ran the Belly and Womb Conference. And we went to Daughters of the Earth once and together. And I remember standing in line for lunch, and I had my cup and my mug, and you walk up to me, and I look over at you like, holy crap, what happened to you? And all you said to me were 2 words. Do you remember?
I think it was put me back together.
No, you said, fix it. Fix it. You're like, fix it.
Not right.
Right. And I was like, well, yeah, it's not right, because you are the most grounded person I have ever met in my life. You are the epitome of Mother Earth, and you were ungrounded. And you were half out of your body, and you had ripped your aura. And I was like, what the hell happened to you? And you were like, I did a breathwork workshop. Fix it. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And I handed my cup and mug off to the cup and bowl off to somebody in front of me, and just like shoved you back in your body and realigned you and healed up your aura. 2-3 minutes later. And I'm like, better? And you're like, yes, thanks. And off you went. And there's a part to this story I don't think you know, which is that the woman in front of me who had been holding my cup and my bowl handed them back to me, and she looked at me and she went, that wasn't Reiki, was it? And I thought about it, and I was like, I thought about all the different pieces and parts that I had done, and I was like, no, none of that was Reiki. And she was just like, what was it? And then I had this moment where I'm just like sitting there going, yeah, it would take me several years to explain the vocabulary that I would have to use to explain to you what I just did in that 5 minutes. And so rather than sound arrogant and puffy about it, I just went, it's just what I do. Which in that moment, I realized, because I'd had so many practitioners over the years say the same thing to me and been so frustrated with the answer. And I was like, oh, now I get it. Right. I'm like, it's what you say when what your actual answer would sound too freaking arrogant, right? It's like, yeah.
People don't understand different words, and people don't understand the energy. They saw it. She sort of understood what happened because she saw me come back in my body, but she didn't know how that happened. And so that's what happens with me. When I work with people, it's just what I do. And I can't always explain what I do, but it's just what I do.
And you do similar to,
yes.
I had Noah Koloff on a little while ago, and he did the episode on money issues. And then, you and I both, he does light language. That's what he calls it. And you and I speak the same spirit language, or at least we did for a while. I don't know if we still do, but I remember doing a healing with you in Rockport. Do you remember that? Where it was a friend of yours in Rockport, and we put him up on the table, and we basically were two people, but we were one person doing a healing, and we were speaking the same words and doing the same things and channeling, and we had 4 hands to work on it. It was the most connected with another healer I had ever been in, and still have ever been in my entire life. Right? Yeah, because we just yeah.
That's not always the case. All healers don't work like that, and I've been lucky with a few people that I work with like that. Yeah, thank you, Kelle.
Yeah. So it was really awesome.
Well, that's why the name is Shamanic Spirit Song, is because the light language came through. When I started doing my healings, all of a sudden now believe me, Kelly's a singer, but I am not a singer. But if Kelle sings like a regular rock and roll song, I can sing with her because I can feel the channel of the music through her. But I also channel my own song when I do healings on people. And it's different for each person that comes in. So which is always a lot of fun because people can feel it.
And the process is called Entrainment. And so if you're curious, we did do an episode on Entrainment like in 2018. So you'd have to go searching back in time. But if you guys listening are interested in what Entrainment is, it'll explain it to you in depth there. But that's the process of Entrainment is what allowed Sue and I to do the healing together. The process of Entrainment is what allows you to sing with me when I sing a song. It's the process of Entrainment is what allows you to sing exactly the right song for that person, right? Yeah. And so basically you're connecting your energy to the other person in order to do the work. It is an empath skill.
I also connect to the ancestors too. So one of the things is that I am the flute that speaks for the ancestors. So blessings, everybody. Thank you for listening. And thank you, Kelle, for having us here today. As you hear my song and my heart opens to this interview, to this time, to this space, to this podcast, in connection with spirit, in connection with my ancestors, in connection in my heart, in connection with Kelle's heart, and in connection with all of your hearts as we speak here today. And I'm very deeply grateful to be here. Thank you, Kelle.
Don't mind me, I'm just soaking that in.
Yeah.
Any other messages you have coming through?
Wateno shutano kopotena shutana waka. Inana shutaden papa cochindana teacher to go shanata patina tu and I wanted to know. And as we walk forward as warrior women and men, we all have the gift in our souls and in our hearts. It's about listening to it. It's about remembering it. It's about feeling it and knowing it and being in your balance and in your soul, your center. What you know is who you are and being in acceptance of it. We all have a knowing. We all have intuition. Depends on how you want to work with it. It's been a long time, Kelle.
I miss you. That's all I can say is I miss you.
Thank you.
Oh my God. I so miss you. This moment, I'm just like, oh, yes, I remember this time we spent. Right?
And actually, this is pretty interesting to come on this time with you because I really haven't been doing any shamanic work for about a year. So it's almost like being rebirthed again for me now today, and doing the podcast is to reopening to what's next and seeing where it's going to come. So it's so interesting to be on the podcast at this time to do this now.
Well, and this is another part of our shared story, is that back when I was struggling to get started and get my business off the ground, and you would host events at your house and make food for people, and, it just, like, and help me promote it, and never take any money for it. And I'm just like, you were so generous to me. And I was just like, I contacted you. I was like, can you please let me do this for you? Let me be generous back, because, you were so kind to me. And she really is. She's one of the most kind people you'll ever meet. She is brilliant as a healer. And if I go to healing, I generally would go to her, right? Because, as you get further along in your process, you're pickier about who you'll take healings from. Because, if you go to just any healer, they're going to bring their crap to the table, right? And so you have to find people who've done the work to clear that crap out, so that they are, in fact, clear channels. And so, yeah, so Sue is up in the Boston area still. And although you're like up in Dedham now, right? Or somewhere north of
Danvers,
the city.
so
Danvers.
right.
Sorry. North of the city. I had the right location. Wrong name. Yeah. So north of Boston, near Salem.
Yes, actually near Salem. I'm a couple towns from Salem. Yes, I am. I don't work in Salem, but I work.
No. Well, Salem's got its own stuff. Yeah. Salem's very, it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing, and it's not
you
my
either
thing.
Be in it or not.
Yeah, it's not mine.
Yeah. So, but yes, if you're up in that area and you are looking for a good healing, then Sue is really amazing. And, she does a lot of work over the internet as well.
Yeah, I do a lot of Zoom. Yes, I do. And I do a lot of phone things too. I see people and we have to look at your body and need to shift things around. I can do that over the Zoom, and we can talk and all kinds of stuff. As long as you tell me what's going on.
You've done power animal journeys and things like that too, right?
I do shamanic journeys, either power animals or depending on what time of year it is, I do it to, like, if I do a journey in November, it's about the gratitude. What's the gratitude? Sometimes if I do a journey in May, we might talk about mothers, which not always make a lot of people happy, but because to me, how can you mother yourself? Having the compassion for yourself. So I do journeys on Zoom, which I'm going to be starting to do probably in November, December. I also run classes. Most of them have been in person. One might be starting to be on Zoom, but I do a variety of classes to introduce you to your intuition, give you confirmation about, oh yeah, I was doing this, and oh, that's why I do it. Oh, okay, that makes sense now, and I'm not just pretending or imagining this stuff. So I help people get in connection to their spirituality, to their heart, to what they're feeling, to the earth. I'm always reminded, have you gone out to put your feet on the ground yet? Or, have you done any grounding? Have you said hello to Mother Earth, said hello to your trees in your yard, and connect people to their lands, and reminding them that we're all energy together on this earth, so.
I remember another ritual that we did where we stripped to the waist and we painted each other.
Yes, we did.
Do you remember that?
Yes, I do. Because then you painted this face on me and I was like, oh, how do you see that? Nobody's supposed to see that. And we took pictures of each other too.
I still have those pictures.
Yeah, because those were
They were powerful.
Quite profound, powerful, getting in touch with those shadow sides and knowing what they are, and then knowing how to use them is always an empowered move for yourselves.
Yeah. We did some serious magic in that circle, man.
Oh, we did. Remember the shadow and the light one we did?
No, tell me.
So we set it up. I had the altar. One side was like a white cloth on it. The other side was a black cloth. And then I put all black candle, white flower, white, black flower. And then, of course, Rhea brought all the altars and the cloth, and they were black and white, and she had like lace and all kinds of stuff. And it really was to look at our shadow. And we all dived into a dark place in our hearts and in our space. And then the other folks held us in that container while we worked at it and looked at it, and actually was witnessed in that shadow space. And it moved me to a different place in my life when we did that. That would be, I don't know if I could do that with a bigger group, but that's really
that was a lot.
The thing.
Yeah. Well, there are things that you can do, and this is a good educational piece for people, is that there are things that you can do in a small group that meets regularly, where you've established trust, where you've done work together. I mean, we worked in this group for 2 years? Yeah. So, Kathy's actually been in a group for 30 years. Can you imagine? They've been meeting every quarter for 30 years. And I'm just like, I can't even imagine how awesome that would be, right?
Well,
yeah, I mean, it's huge. It's huge in healing. And we just, and we took turns designing rituals, right? Yeah. I mean, I remember one ritual where we just went around and put into the center of the circle what it was to be a woman for us. And then got to drink that back in, because we had 2 people in the circle who had children and 2 who didn't. And those of us who had not got to have that experience as we pulled that energy back in, which was lovely. And, just there was so much great, juicy stuff that happened in that circle. Right. And so, at whatever level you're at, if you have people around you who who are doing any level of work and are willing to work with you, then, I would really encourage you to develop a regular practice, because it's such a rewarding thing. I've done several of these circles with different groups of, and it's generally been women's circles, but my very first one was a mixed male-female circle. But I've done several of these over my lifetime, and they've all been super helpful in terms of, helping me move my process along and just have a place to touch in. I just had a 2-year program with 2 students, and that's really the piece of it. They would be like, we don't have any other place that we go to and we talk about all this magical stuff, or just even their process of life, and then giving them a broader picture by bringing spirituality into it and saying, well, look at it this way. Look at it through the shaman eye. Look at it through your soul eye. What are you seeing? Not through your mind's eye, but through your soul eye. And in your heart, where can you go with it? And so I know with these groups, as Kelle has said, I know it helped my growth tremendously, because from my studies is being witness is so key for everybody, because everybody wants to be seen and everybody wants to be heard. And if you're witness in a group, in a process, it brings your healing up to the next level. It does. And for those of you out there saying, I don't want to be seen as vulnerable, I'm afraid, because that's where everybody goes. So don't feel like you're alone. And the fact is that, yes, you're witnessed, but you're witnessed and held in a truly unconditionally loving container.
And that's why if you get in a small group and you work with 1 or 2 or 3 people, then you all get to know each other, and then you can start working from there and then seeing where the group goes. And it's just lovely. It will be more bonding than you ever will have with anybody in your entire life. When you do ritual with people, because you're not talking about, oh, what's the grocery store? I went to the grocery store, or I saw, the rain today, whatever. You're talking from your heart and your soul with these people. And it's just in a different vibration. And
Yeah, your life takes on a greater significance when you're with them, right? Because everything has a meaning deeper than what is just in front of you.
I think at this time in our lives and in this time of society, that's really needed. Everybody needs something like that. And I run a lot of groups when I do my classes. It's really that. That's what I'm building, is a group for people to then mix with each other. They might not have known each other. Let's do a little bit of magic, or let's do a little intuition. And they can see each other working. And then they're like, oh, and then the group ends up being cohesive.
And, you know, you don't have to have somebody who knows what the hell they're doing. You guys can muddle through together. I mean, we didn't know what the hell we were doing. 20 years ago when I started with the group, I mean, I talk about working with my shaman, Ken, but my shaman was like 5 years younger than me. Okay. He was 23 years old when we started this work together. And yeah, he had done a lot of study because he's a sage and that's what he does. He does a lot of study, but we muddled through together, you know. I mean, he taught me some stuff. I intuited some stuff. You know, other stuff was brought in by other members. You know, we did what we did, and we made our way through it, and we grew together as we did the process.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, I think, and that was the same with our group too, because you guys had definitely more experience in practical experience, and then I was like, that I had a fair amount of intuitive experience. So
yeah, you always met us. She was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, you'll figure it out. And then you did.
I know, it's so.
You're like, well, I just did this. I'm like, perfect. And you're like, really? I'm like, yeah, it's great. Yeah. So yeah, I love that that's what you're doing now for everybody else. It's like you're paying it forward. It's awesome.
Right. And also I'm one of the words I use for myself is an intuitive ritualist. So people come to me if they want to build a ritual. I mean, I've done baby blessings. I've done marriage blessings. I've done, you know, when someone's passed, I've done, you know, grief blessings and, or even happy occasions, you know, even if you're just moving, celebrations, anything like that. And so,
yeah, I remember when you got divorced. We did a ritual for
divorce.
You. You helped design that one too.
Yes, I did. And that was my first ritual. So if you want a divorce ritual, I got a really good one for you.
Yes, she does.
And that's where my intuition came in. I just was open to listening to what it was telling me. And I had never done anything like that before. I invited 8 women, and I had this whole thing planned, and Kelle, she was like the facilitator, kind of like just telling people where to do and how to go and announcing me and different things. And that was another powerful initiation. Everything's initiation.
I am. I have a great picture of you and me and Bill and Maria at her house when we did the clearing. Do you remember?
Oh, that was... Oh my God. No, I would like to see that picture. I remember what we did.
Yeah, that was the day that I got to call myself a shaman, was because it was the day that another shaman acknowledged me, and he did it by accident and he didn't even know it. You know, he introduced me to his eagle feather, and I communed with it for a second and handed it back to him. And he said, "Why didn't you tell me you were a shaman?" And I didn't have the heart to say, "Well, I wasn't officially until a minute ago." Until you said that. But I just went, it just didn't seem relevant, you know?
And then you guys then initiated me. And that was, I was like, so we were clearing our friend's house, and Bill had been invited to do that. He was the, I don't know, quote unquote, known shaman. And I was apprenticeshipping. Kelle was thing. And he came in, and we did the whole house clearing and drumming, and he had me drum, and Kelle and him went through the house and I did drumming. And at the end, he took the drum from me, and he goes, "I'm going back outside." And then he came back inside, and he said to me, so we did like a little meditation, and I saw a vision, and he said, "My guides are telling me that this is your initiation into being a shaman." shamanic practitioner. I mean, it's not something I didn't wake up yesterday and say, that day and said, okay, this is what I'm going to be. I work in the medical field. This is not something that I woke up one day and said, oh yeah, this is definitely what I'm going to do. I know what it is. No.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't choose shamanism. It chooses you.
It chooses you. Absolutely. Absolutely. That was, and the piece of when we stood underneath the doorway in the middle of the house and you guys put me in the center and blessed me, all three of you. And that was, I always feel that there's a certain protection around me because of that blessing. It's quite the thing. It's quite the thing. Sometimes there's no words for things like that. The feelings are just, and those are the type of instances in bonding that you can't make up. You can't, it's not something you dream up of. I don't think so. So it's about just saying yes, really.
Even when you're scared, especially when you're scared.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because, oh my God, the amount of times our eyes were wide and we're going, okay.
Oh my God,
what am I doing? Okay.
Are you really serious, man? Is this seriously going to happen? We going to really do this? Promise me a steak afterwards, right? Okay, I'll be there.
She did. She'd say stuff like that every time. She was, we'd get halfway through and she'd go, "Rah!" and I'd go, and the horse I rode in on. And
yeah,
she'd be like,
exactly. Yes. Oh.
Oh my God. I feel like we're all war buddies telling stories.
Yeah, I know, exactly. Well, I think we are a little bit.
Yeah, kind of. Magic is kind of like that.
And so you have to understand that's the kind of bond that you build with people when you do this. And you give them, Kelle gave me a really great example. She said, when the kids are learning how to ride their bike and they don't have the training wheels, you can't hold onto the bike the whole time, so you let them go. And then if they fall, it's okay. Because what you're going to do is you're going to step in and reach your hand out and help them to stand up again and get back on the bike. And that's when you do this kind of work, is you watch each person fall. You watch each person go through their process, but you're there to hold their hand while they do it. And,
and if you try and stop them from falling, you stop them from learning how to ride.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Everybody's done that too. But with the grace of God, with the grace and dignity to fall, but to get the back up, to pull up the bootstraps, put on your big girl panties or big boy panties and go about it and see what the world is offering you, because it's out there for all of us. And it's out there, it's bringing your energy, your juice, whatever you got to make the world a better place, to make yourself a better, live, as best as you can,
Well, and that's all you can ever do, is the best as you can, right? You're going to fuck it up. You're going to get it wrong.
Exactly.
Oh my God. I once started an entire podcast called Magical Muck-Ups because it was just, a whole series of stupid things that we did, And I mean, just every time you do something stupid, every time you blow yourself up, you learn from it. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
If you're smart.
Or you get people to ask, you can say, hey, I went to a retreat, and I went to the retreat because I heard there was going to be a shaman. So I was all excited and I went there. And then the shaman didn't come. So then the person who was running said, so do you want to be the shaman for the retreat? So then I opened the thing and then I left, and then I met Kelle, and that following Tuesday, I go, I am so tired. She goes, well, did you close the circle? I'm like, oh, no. That is why I'm exhausted and I haven't slept in 2 days, because I kept that energy circle open.
This is the funny piece, because they've heard me tell this story about 6 ways from Sunday with me and Kathy doing this. So it's so nice to hear this story from somebody else, because I totally forgot about that. So yeah, if they've been listening for a while, they've heard this one from me too. Forgetting to close the circle is the basic one that everybody gets hosed on.
And you get hosed on it. And when you do it once, and then you're like, oh, I will never do that again.
Yeah, until the next time you do. Right. So. Because you got distracted or, whatever. Yeah, shit happens, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, it's so funny because when we're doing this work, it's such a sacred charge, right? We're just told that this is what we need to do, and we need to be clear about it, right? And yet at the same time, about half the time when you're coming up, if not more, you're going, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm just gonna pray that it's gonna work out, and I'm gonna just get the hell out of the way, and I'm gonna try not to notice what's coming out of my mouth. Am I wrong? I'm not wrong.
No, you're not wrong. You're right on the nose there.
Yeah. It's being, headstrong. And half of it's just being fucking stubborn, It's like, I'm just going to do this. And and whatever happens, I will fucking deal. But I'm just going to do this. And no, you can't tell me no. I'm just going to do it. Because, that's what commitment is, right? You cannot do magic without having access to your own commitment.
Definitely your own commitment. You have to know your own self and your own place in your center and where you're at, and be committed to it. I've gone into ritual going, I've got 2 things written. I'm not sure if that's what I'm going to do, but let's see how it goes.
Oh my God. And sometimes it's you, because the spirit won't let you write it, because you've tried to write it and you came up with something and it sucked and you're like, this isn't it. And then you're like, okay, I'm going to write it the day of, and then it doesn't happen. Right. And then and then sometimes it's somebody else does it to you. Right. So like, I used to do rituals with a Tantra instructor in Boston, and she would call me up and say, hey, do you want to do this ritual with us? And I would say, yeah, sure. And I'm like, when? And she would tell me the date. I'm like, okay, it's in my calendar. What are we doing? She's like, oh, I'll get back to you on it. And then I would follow up. No response. And the day of, she would contact me at 4:00. The ritual was to start at 7. And she would say, okay, I want you to do this role. And I'm like, okay, what's the context? What else is being done? Who else is there? What else is going on? Blah, 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 blah. And she'd say, well, I think so-and-so is going to do this and so-and-so is going to do that. And, we'll just feel through it in the moment. And I would just show up and be like, okay, whatever. Just feel like, you are so lucky I've done enough ritual that I can do this on the fly, because holy crap, woman, you've given me 0 to work with. Right. But yeah, sometimes that's just the case. So it's, you get to the point where you've done enough of these and it does become second nature, and you can just do it on the fly. And, that's Kathy and I do that all the time now. And I know you do it all the time. Once you get to a certain point, it's just integrated into your beingness, and you're in it, and it's in you. And
it just comes right through, and it's just like a muscle, you need to exercise it a little bit, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. And then it comes to you it's like someone will call me up. I open a book, and they start talking to me, and I start writing, because that's where it all just comes through. And I don't have to wait.
Speaking of writing, because we are going way over, and you and I will just keep talking for like 2 hours, and my editing guy will be really unhappy with me. And the rest of the listeners are going to be like, well, this episode was really long. So you wrote a book.
I did write a book. So I wrote a book, Into the Heart, The Polarity of Wholeness. And the reason I say the polarity of wholeness is just like you have daytime, the sun, and just like you have night. And both are important. You need the day for the sun, and you need the night for the coolness. And so your shadow helps, with your light. As much shadow as you have inside is as much light as you have inside, and you need both of them to do this kind of work. And so in the book, it tells my story a little bit about how to do different things, and there's little exercises in it to, like a grounding exercise and different things on how to, you can make little notes and look at your process, look at your triggers, look at your reactions to the world. And it gives you a different way to look at things through the spirit, through your heart. So coming into your heart to see the lightness of the world, but also to see the darkness of the world and of yourself. So my first exercise that I did with one of my teachers, we were supposed to go down to the bus in the meditation and meet our shadow. I went down to the bus, and there was this girl who was like a pixie girl. She had a fancy, beautiful colors on. She was like, ooh, and happy and shiny. I'm like, she had glitter. I came back up. I go to the teacher. I'm saying, I did it wrong. I met this girl there. She wasn't a shadow. He goes, do you know your darkness? I said, yes. He goes, do you know your light? And I said, no. He goes, well, you met her, and that's your shadow.
I was laughing because I haven't heard this story before, but I knew you back then. And yes, you needed to know your light.
Exactly. Because I had the shadow stuff down very well, and I understood that. But the light, I didn't. That was at the beginning of my, thankfully, it was at fairly the beginning of my training and all that I met my light, and that's what people see as my light, and I'm always like, what are they looking at? Because it's not something that I was very familiar with.
So we do have to wrap up, but I want to tell one more story. But I don't want to tell it. I want you to tell it. I want you to tell the story about when the rocks clicked together. They merged.
Oh, with our friend?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can remember the whole thing. You might need to give me the backing up.
No, don't count on me for that. I just remember the moment of holy shitness.
A good friend came for a healing, and they sat in front of me. And a lot of times I use the drum, but a lot of times I use rocks, and I bring the rocks together. And we were doing something with him. Really, he was really we went deep. And just at one point, it was about a release, but it was also about a calling back in for him. And the rocks came together in this healing. And
when she says came together, the two rocks merged into a single rock. I want to be really clear what she means by that. The two rocks ceased to be two rocks, and they became a single rock. So when I say badass, I do mean it.
So things like that happen for me, and I'm not really public about it. But
too bad, too late.
Yeah, because that's part of someone's private session, but it was a pretty significant.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know how that happened, but bless it. There it is. There it goes. And I was another story is I was sitting with somebody, and we were talking, and we were sitting on the couch facing each other, and she said something, and a light shot out of my eye, on my side of my eye. And she's like, did a light just shoot out of your eye? I was like, well, maybe. So spirit works with me. I'm kind of the reluctant person that goes along with it, and
yeah, you're not reluctant. Let's get clear. You just pretend that you're reluctant because, then it makes you feel like people don't think you're nuts.
Exactly.
But, these people will not think you're nuts. So we're okay.
Well,
and you have witnesses. I am the witness.
I have witnesses. I have a few witnesses, and it's just, it's so much fun to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I think we may have to do something together sometime soon.
So.
We're going to have to figure it out.
I'll have to figure it out, Kelly.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm just like, this just feels too good.
It's too much fun. So you got to wrap it up.
Yeah.
Thank you
with
so
that
much.
said,
Yes.
With that said, I'm going to put you on notice that I'm going to ask you to do what I'm normally asked to do by Joey, which is to provide a Kellyism, which is it's going to be a Sueism, which sort of wraps up, in very short, like a sentence or so, the thought for the day or a message that you want to give everybody. I'll give you a second to think about that while I say, if you want to reach Sue, you can get her book on Amazon. And the link will be in the show notes, and you can reach her on her email, which will also be in the show notes. And you can find her on her website at sueangelo.com. And that's SUEANGELO.com. And if you want a session with her, you can just reach out via email. That's the best way to do that. And, clearly you're not going to regret it. So, and by the way, thank you so much. We've received some great reviews for the show recently. And we've gone way long on this episode, so I'll read you the most recent one that's on the next one. But thank you for rating and thank you for reviewing. You guys rock and keep it up. And with that, do you have a Sueism for us to close the show?
Listen to your heart, because that will tell you the truth. And always say yes when your heart asks.
That is a true Sueism. Always say yes when your heart asks. That's fantastic. Well, that is all we have for this week, but be sure to join us next week as I add another chapter into your guide to energy, magic, and the spirit world. I'm Kelle Sparta here with Sue Angelo, and you have been listening to Spirit Sherpa. So long, everyone.
So long. Thank you. So long, everybody. Thank you.
Share without condition. Each mile I travel over 13,000 now.
Spirit Sherpa is the sole property of Kelle Sparta Enterprises and is distributed under a Creative Commons BY-NC-ND 4.0 license. For more information about this licensing, please go to www.creativecommons.org. Any requests for deviations to this licensing should be sent to kelly@kellesparta.com. To sign up for or get more information on the programs, offerings, and services referenced in this episode, please go to www.kellesparta.com. This episode of Spirit Sherpa has been produced by Honu Voice Productions, with post-production by Christopher Wright.
Into my home and my love.